This is the most versatile camera that I own, and now it's even better. The X100VI is one of my favorite cameras, probably of all time, but it also comes with one very real limitation. You're locked into just one focal length. And for a lot of people, that's the appeal, that's the point of it. But if you ever wished that the X100VI could reach just a little bit further or go a little bit wider even, you've probably looked at conversion lenses. And today I'm comparing two of the most popular options on the market right now, the Viltrox conversion lens system and the tele and wide options from Freewell. This isn't a spec shootout, this is about real world use and which system actually makes sense, depending on how you shoot, or I should say how I shoot because I'm making the video. But let's start with the big picture difference first. These two brands take very different approaches. Viltrox on one hand is aiming for a more native style experience, dedicated wide and tele lenses that feel like a natural extension of the camera. Freewell on the other hand lends into modularity that also throw a macro in the mix so that way you can have a little bit more versatility and flexibility out there when you're shooting. Neither approach in my opinion is wrong, but they feel very different when you start actually shooting with them. Viltrox offers two dedicated conversion lenses for the X100VI. The TCL extends the camera to a 50mm equivalent, and the WCL broadens it to about 28mm equivalent. Both were designed to maintain native sharpness and consistent illumination across the frame. For my shooting, image quality feels pretty confident, sharp where it matters and controlled at the edges, and consistent from shot to shot. One thing that I was surprised about is that there is a subtle vignette on both lenses. Nothing that's, too heavy or distracting, but enough to add a little bit of character and depth to the image. And if you watch the channel for any amount of time, you know that I enjoy character on my photos. They also, in my opinion, match the X100 aesthetic really well. They don't feel like an afterthought. They feel like it was, made first party. They feel intentional visually and physically. And despite the added glass, they're still light enough that the camera keeps, its balance and portability. But the most important Viltrox feature isn't optical, it's integration. These lenses have built-in magnets that communicate directly with the camera. The X100VI automatically knows which lens is attached and applies the correct focal mapping and lens correction. You mount the lenses and you're ready to shoot. No menus, no extra steps, and no second guessing. Freewell takes a different approach on the other hand. Their 1.5x telephoto lens gives you more reach without dramatically changing how the camera handles. Image quality holds up as well, good center sharpness, controlled chromatic aberration. The 2-in-1 wide macro lens is where Freewell really stands out. You get macro on its own and then a wider field of view when you thread the wide lens on top of that. At 155 grams, it does add a little bit of bulk to your camera, but that's to be expected if you're screwing on a whole extra lens. Compared to Viltrox, I will say that the Freewell are a little bit softer in the center. After blowing these up on my computer and looking at them pixel peeping, I did notice that the Viltrox resolve a sharper image overall, and also the slightly greater reach on the Freewell do give you a little bit more compression in the background blur for the telephoto lens. And on a crop sensor fixed lens camera, that could be a big deal if you shoot a lot of portraits. One thing that really changes how useful the teleconversion lenses are is how they pair with the X100VI's crop modes. With the 40 megapixel sensor, those crop modes are absolutely usable. Starting off the Viltrox TCL, mounted on the camera, you're at about 50mm equivalent. Enable the first crop mode and you're roughly at 72mm. And then you go to the second crop mode and you're right around 100mm. That's a very practical range for portraits, kids, details, and moments where you can't physically get closer. And because the camera recognizes the lenses automatically, the entire range feels seamless. With Freewell 1.5x tele, your baseline is also around 50mm. First crop mode puts you near 75mm, and the second crop mode gets you roughly to 105mm. So in terms of reach, both systems get you into very similar territory. Once again, the difference isn't compatibility, it's how much thinking you have to do while you're shooting. Now, of course, we have to talk about pricing. The Viltrox TCL is $189.99, and the Viltrox WCL is $159.99. For comparison, Fujifilm's own TCL and WCL lenses are each $399. So Viltrox is already offering a significant value advantage while staying close to a native experience. On the Freewell side, the 1.5x telephoto is $150, and the wide plus macro combo is only $100. If you're looking purely at upfront costs, Freewell is the cheaper way in. A full Viltrox wide plus tele setup lands you around about $350. And that's still even less than a single Fujifilm conversion lens, and you get automatic recognition and built-in correction. A full Freewell setup comes in closer to $250. That's great value, but with more friction. With Freewell, like I said, you're saving money up front, but you have to pay for it over time. Diving into menus every time you want to swap lenses. With Viltrox, you just pay a bit more up front, but you don't think about it again. And over time, in my opinion, that convenience matters much more than you'd expect. Now to discuss like the real differences. After using both systems, one thing became very clear. The biggest difference here isn't image, it's experience. Viltrox feels integrated, Freewell feels modular. Neither is wrong, they just serve different types of shooters. And I wouldn't even say different types of shooters, it's just, what do you have time for? So where does this leave things? If you value flexibility, low cost, and compact size, Freewell makes a lot of sense. If you value flow, integration, and not thinking about settings, Viltrox feels closer to a native extension of your camera. And if I had to live with just one conversion lens, on the X100VI, it would definitely be the Viltrox WCL. I find myself benefiting from going wider far more often than, going longer, especially when photographing my kids in everyday life. And with the X100VI's 40 megapixel sensor, the built-in crop modes are much more usable, so I don't absolutely need a TCL with me at all times when I need that extra reach. That combination, wider up front, cropping when needed, covers most of what I actually shoot. The X100VI doesn't need conversion lenses, but the right one can absolutely change how you use the camera. If you've been thinking long and hard about getting, the Fujifilm conversion lenses and you didn't like the way the Freewell ones looked, either be it because of branding or no magnets or the weird screw-on adapter, for two lenses you pay, less than you'd pay for one of the Fujifilm conversion lenses. I have yet to use the Fujifilm conversion lenses, so I can't really comment on quality, but if the camera thinks that it is a first-party Fujifilm, conversion lens, I'd imagine the quality can't be too far off. Now, of course, Fujifilm has much more experience when it comes to developing glass and, optics over Viltrox, but I mean, Viltrox also makes lenses, so I can't speak on quality too much. Maybe one day I'll get the Fujifilm adapters in hand and I can actually fully test it out, but I'd say that I'd be way more comfortable spending $350 on two conversion lenses than $400 on one. Links are of course down below in the description. Let me know which direction you'd go, and until next time, stay fresh. Peace.